You caught me at a bit of a bad time. See, I was about to play some good old classic Mario Kart Wii Online. So what'd you want to talk about? Wait, hold that thought because I have the perfect topic.
Dead online game services.
With conversation starters like these, there's no way in hell I'm ever gonna lose my V-card.
Video games utilizing the internet is something we all kind of take for granted these days. We've all gotten used to the idea of playing video games with other people from around the world and purchasing DLC for our games. Most modern day consoles and PCs have online gaming pretty much nailed, but the concept isn't anything new. One of the earliest examples of online gaming done on a console was the Famicom Net system. From 1988 to 1991, the Famicom Net system was a peripheral for the Famicom that gave consumers access to a server allowing them to view game cheats, get some downloadable content, see live stock trades, view the weather forecast, and even horse betting. I mean, it's something that riveting compared to most online services nowadays, but I'm fairly certain that most people saw this back in the day and went,
"Holy shit, it tells me the weather?"
However, the Famicom Net system wasn't very successful, selling a total of 130,000 units in its lifetime, but Nintendo didn't want to give up just yet and decided to up the ante with their next online service, the Satellaview. From 1995 to 2000, the Satellaview was an add-on for the Super Famicom. It delivered downloadable games such as expansions for Chrono Trigger and F-Zero, remakes of older games like Excitebike and The Legend of Zelda, and the service did all of this not on dial-up internet, but rather, a radio broadcast.
And that was our weekly scheduled broadcast of The Legend of Zelda. Damn it! And now for the weather. Ooh!
Players could also create an avatar and enter an Earthbound-like hub area where they could go into buildings so they can download games and save them to a flash cart. There were a total of 114 games released for the Satellaview with 116,378 active players. And for those of you that were wondering, no, you can't check the weather.
Son of a bitch!
Nintendo, however, wasn't the only gaming company at this time to be attempting an online gaming service. Sega also threw their hat in the ring with their service, the Sega Channel. Going from 1994 to 1998, the Sega Channel was an adapter gamers would plug into the cartridge slot of their Genesis, allowing them to connect to the service through cable thanks to Sega's partnership with Time Warner Cable. One big advantage Sega's service had over Nintendo's was its availability outside of Japan. You had access to 50 games a month for $15, and you even had access to games that never saw a physical release outside of Japan or Europe. Unlike the Satellaview, however, you can't keep the games on the adapter plugged into the Genesis. Once you turn off the console, the games will be erased and you'd have to re-download them.
Nintendo, my ass!
But like I said, there's always 50 games to choose from on a monthly basis, so even if you don't get to keep the games, you'd always have something to play. One other gripe I have is Sega's choice of exclusive games for the service. Stuff like Mega Man The Wily Wars has no reason to be stuck on the Sega Channel in North America and not get a physical release. I mean, like, yeah, having a game like that exclusively on the service would make people want to justify buying it more, but why? If this game got a physical release on the Genesis, then owners of the console would have eaten this up. The Satellaview did this too, but I can kind of forgive it since it was just a bunch of remakes of early NES games with not much content added. This is a full-blown remake of 3 Mega Man games in one cartridge with a brand new mode, multiple things to do, and they don't release it physically in America where Mega Man is popular? Huh? I just wish that Sega used the exclusives as a way to advertise the games, like say Mega Man The Wily Wars is just a demo and you only really get access to the first game. That would build hype and make people want to buy the game more when it eventually comes out.
The big problem with a lot of these services is that they only really had features that appeal to adults. Like horse betting. Because when I think Nintendo, gambling is the first thing that comes to mind. Just kidding, it's sex hotels. Look it up. But with the birth of the internet, Nintendo would give us a brand new subscription service that gave us a ton of innovative features on a failed accessory!
This new subscription service was called RANDnet. It was the N64's online service. Trying to exist from 1999 to 2001, RANDnet was a very innovative little service. With the combined power of the N64 modem and RANDnet disc, players could access the internet and do things like send emails, chat, play video games online, among other activities that I couldn't get footage for because the service is no longer available. Now, these early online services were very impressive, though the main issue is that you needed all this stuff, and most people didn't want to have to spend tons of money to have to read 40 pages of instructions only for the service to die in like 3 years.
Why did I buy this? Oh yeah, the weather.
What consumers wanted was something quick and easy to set up. No large amount of cables or immediate regret here, just something simple, convenient, and long-lasting.
They did 2 of those things.
Yep, the Sega Dreamcast. This console holds quite a few milestones. It was the first Sega console with 4 built-in controller ports, it had a real 3D Sonic game, it was the first of the 6th generation consoles to be released, this fucking controller, and it was the first console to have a built-in modem so you could connect to the internet. The ability to connect to the internet right out of the box is one of the Dreamcast's biggest selling points. SegaNet was the service's name in the US, and it lasted from 2000 to 2003, and it could have gone on much longer, but the Dreamcast decided to. And as a result of the Dreamcast dying, SegaNet also. Now, when the service was active, there were 400,000 active players in the USA alone, and it offered a number of impressive features that later became standard. DLC for games like Sonic Adventure, online leaderboards, community events, and multiplayer. The best showcase of online multiplayer for the Dreamcast had to be Phantasy Star Online, the first MMORPG developed for a console. PSO's main appeal compared to other MMORPGs was its simplicity. The combat wasn't too complex and the gameplay was very simple, easy, and addicting.
But suffice to say, it doesn't really matter how good the online was if there's ultimately no games to support it. Don't get me wrong, SegaNet was very good, but it's obvious that survival wasn't exactly on the menu. Online gaming has the potential to be something very special at this period of time, but it needs a video game console that has a large player base and video games to support it. Of course you did it.
Obviously, the PS2 had a successful run with online gaming. The console had a player base and the third-party games to support it. Games like Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Killzone were some of the best games to play online. Though, some of the games released for the PS2 that you think would have online just didn't have it. We live in a world where you can play Godzilla Save the Earth online and not Tekken Tag. Yeah, we are just doomed to fail. I get it, online gaming was still in its infancy back in the day, so companies didn't want to invest a ton of money into it yet. But the PS2 definitely did a lot for online multiplayer and gaming, and that can't be understated. And something even more impressive about the service was that it lasted from 2002 to 2016.
The PlayStation 2 lasted so long that it even got Netflix through a little streaming disc. These things are really fucking weird.
Yeah, the PS2 definitely got to indulge in a lot of success both online and offline. But there were two other consoles released for that generation, the Xbox and GameCube. So what did these two consoles have to offer in terms of an online service? Just how did these two up the ante compared to the PlayStation 2?
Nintendo gave us jack shit.
There were 8. 8 games released for the GameCube that supported online, and even then, it wasn't even through Nintendo's own damn service. Developers would have to set up their own network service just so online was a thing on the GameCube, and even then, you still had to buy an Ethernet adapter. Nintendo's had online services in the past, and they predate dial-up internet. So why wouldn't they create a service for the GameCube when the internet was easily accessible? It just doesn't make sense. Apparently, their reasoning behind it was that gamers wouldn't want to pay a subscription fee just to play games online.
And yet they were completely cool with third-party companies charging for online, and also...
The very existence of this console absolutely eviscerates Nintendo's logic. Xbox Live. I wonder what console this service was for. It lasted from 2002 to 2010 on the original Xbox, but it's still going strong today with consoles like the Xbox One. The Xbox was like the best parts of the Dreamcast and PS2 rolled into one console. It had a built-in modem like the Dreamcast and was fairly good online on top of actually being successful, which meant that there was a good user base to justify having online for the console just like the PS2. Sure, you had to pay to use the online service, but people didn't care. You give games like Halo online and gamers will pay anything just to play it. Now, Xbox Live had one big thing going for it that no one else had, and that was the addition of voice chat. Just imagine what it must have felt like to finally call that one asshole a stupid piece of shit because he's better at the game than you.
The online services I've talked about so far are ones I've never actually personally experienced for myself, but this next one I'm going to talk about soaked up a lot of my time, and it was both a blessing and a curse.
Now, Nintendo may have failed to give the GameCube a dedicated online service, but surely they must have cleaned up their act and gave the Wii a perfectly functional internet service after online gaming became a well-established thing, right? Right? The Nintendo Wi-Fi service. From my experience, this was abysmal. It lagged constantly, even with a good connection, and trust me, you don't want lag when playing Smash Brothers. It worked fine enough with Mario Kart. Those were the only two games I really played with the service. One was atrocious and frustrating, and the other one was Smash Brothers. Despite all of this, I still got a ton of mileage out of Nintendo Wi-Fi. It was my introduction to online gaming, and I can't thank it enough for that. It feels weird. Since the service is gone, it's like an entire section of my childhood is just completely inaccessible. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to share this experience with anyone now that the official servers are shut down.
The key word there is official.
You may not be able to play these games on servers supported by the company, but then you have those guys who have way too much time and unpaid mortgage on their hands who are doing God's work. That's right, these dead online games are kept alive through private servers run by fans.
Because much like high school, death is meaningless.
See, unlike an old relative, it is possible to bring back a dead online service with just enough time and effort. If the game is good enough, then fans can and will keep servers going so that they and several others can play the game for several years to come. Sometimes companies shut down these efforts, and when they do that, I take a cold shower and mope. And I just don't understand why they would do this. Being able to play these games online can help future developers learn how these old games handled online play so that they can improve upon it, or maybe they have mechanics that only work online, so having these games readily available helps with these efforts. Services like these should be preserved in some fashion. They're a part of gaming history and shouldn't just be available for a brief period of time because people are going to want to come back and play these games. Some games have great modes that only work online, like for example Mario Kart Wii. It brought back the challenge mode from DS. If companies take these efforts down, then they're effectively erasing gaming history. Instead, they should be allowing fans to maintain servers so that these games are available for years to come.
Thankfully, companies don't go after these servers too often, which means that gamers are free to enjoy their favorite games online for as long as they like, and I just got done setting up a private server for Mario Kart Wii! So now I can burn rubber and subconsciously ignore the fact that I'll never get a date! My chances of getting a date and winning at this game are about the same.